Happy Sunday, guys. I'm Reno, this is Dana, and we are here with episode 8 of Style by Spirituality TV. And this is part 2 of a 2-part special where we sit down and talk to the people that we're interviewing about post-secondary education. Now, as you know, we spoke to Kelly about her experience as a student and following her post-secondary education. And now I'm here with Dana, who currently studies anthropology, and she is an insane activist as well, very involved in equality for post-secondary students. And she's also a rapper, apparently. So I just learned that today. I just learned this girl can rap too. So she's kind of a jack of all trades, and I'm really, really excited to have her here today. So let's dive right in. I would love to know, because you're such an activist, and I know this, and I see everything you post, and I love it, I love it, I love it. What can you tell me about what you're currently involved in?
Well, I'm currently studying anthropology at the University of Manitoba, as you're well aware. I'm in my 4th year, finishing up my honors degree, and that experience is what opened my doors to sort of the idea of activism and social movements and social change. So the opportunity to work with some professors who are really interested in this, and the opportunity to partake in some courses that might not be offered on a large scale level, that have been more intimate sort of experiences where we talk about work on the ground and what can be done on the ground. So, and then outside of that, my schooling, I guess, I'm involved with a number of different activities, I guess you could say. Initially, when I had gone to Brazil back in May of 2012, I was there for doing research with indigenous communities that were living in rural communities there. And while we were there, it ended up being rather loosely structured. There were some barriers to undergoing research in the communities, which really opened up our time in the city. So it allowed me the opportunity to get involved with some really interesting movements in Brazil, including the student movement. So while I was there, and before I had gone there, I had some encounters on campus with some of the neat campaigns going on, and had sort of started to make a connection, and was growing understanding at the time. But when I had the opportunity in Brazil to reach out and connect with people who were from a completely different country, experiencing what you'd imagine to be completely different issues, but ultimately in the post-secondary education setting, there were a lot of similarities as well.
And isn't that funny how the world works? Isn't that funny?
Yeah. It's the larger forces that were at hand that were affecting both of us, our post-secondary institutions in different parts of the world. And that really, I got caught up like a whirlwind, and to this day, that's kind of what got me involved initially. And currently, I'm involved with the Education for All campaign, which is working towards equal opportunity to enter into post-secondary education and to have the opportunity to learn, because it's not just the wealthy or privileged ones who should have that opportunity, but everyone should have that opportunity.
Absolutely, I agree. And so what does that look like for you? When you say equal opportunity, what does that look like for post-secondary students? What's kind of, what do you envision?
Well, basically, my vision is that there are open doors. If you want to learn, you should have the opportunity to learn. It shouldn't require having a certain income in order to have that door open for you. So it means that you shouldn't be taught. It means that ultimately it would mean ulterior sources of funding in order to assist some people who systemically are rooted in this position where it's become really, really difficult to seek opportunities to not only participate in the post-secondary education setting, but to get out of that sort of systematic, it's like a magnet. They're stuck, and it can be really difficult. And with the cost of post-secondary education nowadays, it's next to impossible.
It's insane. And then you finish your studies, And I always say this is kind of like this what now experience where you're strapped with student loan debt, and then of course the interest rates are insane, and then kind of thinking, okay, like what do we do now? And everything's kind of, there's a lot of confusion that comes with it, a lot of confusion. And yeah.
Well, that's the thing. The people who aren't tied down by jobs because they need to work. You need money to survive. You need money to buy food, to get food on the table. Ultimately, at the end of the day, and to afford shelter, you need money. So some people don't have that opportunity to have post-secondary education. If they don't have that money up front, if they're not from a network, a family network that is in wealth, then they're going to really have a hard time. And so even if they do have, decide, look, this educational opportunity is an investment, so I'll be broke, I'll be a starving, broke-ass student.
Typical.
They'll do it. But ultimately, it's not just about getting in those doors. You still have to physically get to the university. So are you going to catch the bus? Are you going to be driving?
And bus fare is expensive. And if you own a car, it's also equally expensive. More expensive in some cases. And I find bus fares going up. And these expenses that you don't even initially consider are there. And it's tough. So, speaking from experience, I know how tough it can be being a post-secondary student. And what I'm wondering is, based on the work that you do and what you've learned through your work, is there hope? Like, what can we see happening in the near future, or maybe even the distant future? Is there hope for these things that you're fighting for to come into action?
Well, the neat thing is that there are actually models of open universities that do exist across the world. And that means, what I mean by an open university, it means that it's free education. And it means that it can be offered in that institutional setting, or there are also, but that requires infrastructure, that requires resources on the ground. There are also have been opportunities offered from distance. So that means just having access to research articles online rather than having to pay for them. If you're a student, you get access to some of these resources and information that non-students don't have access to, even once you've graduated. As a doing postgraduate studies, you still might not have access to those same documents that an undergraduate student might have access to. So the idea of an open university is about the open opportunity to learn. So the neat thing is that this open university idea, students can decide to read, to learn by choice. And then there's also, from what I've heard, there's also models that exist where you can, if you have the opportunity to get access to that knowledge, but then you also have the opportunity to put down a certain amount of money in order to get accredited for that learning that you do. So it means that the doors are open, and to get certified does require still a bit of a payment, but I mean, ultimately the notion is that education for all. It's more accessible, exactly.
So, based on what you know now, with all the experience that you have, not only as a post-secondary student, but as an activist, for someone out there who is in this position currently or looking into embarking on the post-secondary education experience, what advice could you give to them to better prepare them for that next step?
Well, I mean, really it starts at a young age where we tend to take university and the post-secondary opportunity for granted in our country.
Absolutely.
We're very, very fortunate here in Canada, and there's a portion of the population here that tends, myself included, when I was younger, I did take that opportunity for granted.
We all did. Yeah.
We all did, and we all probably still do to a certain extent, where I've got a paper due and I still put it off till that last minute. I do the readings the night before kind of thing. It's like, wow, I'm in this position and yet I still take it for granted. So it's about connecting with people at a young age and engaging with them to find things that they truly have passion for, something that they're really find motivating and they're passionate about, that they're going to be driven to study. And when these barriers do arise, that's when you realize, this is something I really want.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I reach it? It's there. I know other people, I've seen them reach it.
Yeah.
Why can't I reach it? And you can be in that position and you can feel alone. You can feel isolated. You can feel like you have no hope. And sometimes it means that, well, there are other people who have been in that position. There are other people out there who are willing to assist to get you out of that position. But it requires more dynamic in the community,
definitely.
at the community level. And in, you know, we need to, it's from the ground up. So, and from
I
a young
feel
age
like
up.
that's happening more and more with this business of community. Like, I think we're now starting to realize the importance of it. So what I'd like to know for our audience, our friends here, is what if we want to get in touch with you, if we want to see some of the work that you do, where can we find you? Like, if we want to know more about Fusion, or we want to know more about Education for All, where can we find information on that?
Well, there is information available on Facebook, social media. There is information online about we talked about community, the transition movement as well. That, you know, Winnipeg has our local chapter of the Transition Winnipeg movement. We've got smaller versions as well at the community level in our city, and it's
so
really
there's
neat.
stuff out there, you guys. Look it up, get involved, get involved, because it does start with community. And I know firsthand that the power of community and the power of networking, and and I really think it is important to get out there and get involved, because this does affect you. This affects us. Whether or not we realize it in the moment or after the fact, it affects us. So I think it's important to, like you, and I commend you for this, get involved, get active.
And then we have to take a step back, though, because, I mean, some people, you know, I've got my community. I was born and raised here, my community where I was born and raised, so, like, I've got roots here. But some people don't have those roots if they're newer to the city here. And so that means when you do enter that post-secondary setting, it's about finding a community. It's about, how do I find these networking experiences? And they do exist. And it can be difficult. They are out there. And sometimes you need to get out of your shell a little bit. And it requires taking risks.
Get out of your comfort zone.
It requires getting out of your comfort zone and pushing buttons sometimes.
It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. But you gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Break
and
the
let me
ice.
just say, I'm so proud of you for all the work that you do. And
Awesome.
I really appreciate you being a part of Styled by Spirituality.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. And guys, stay tuned, because as usual, we have another special episode of Styled by Spirituality next week. Love, peace, and hair grease. Peace.
I love it.
So, you forgot something major, and I'm going to give you a minute to explain what Education for All is.
Okay, so basically the Education for All campaign, again, is about increasing accessibility and affordability of post-secondary education here in our province. Because all students, all people who want the opportunity to learn should have that opportunity to learn. And it's honestly, the power is in the hands of the Manitoba government to open up those doors of opportunity to more students. And this doesn't mean so that we're flooding the universities with students. This means people who actually want to learn, who don't currently have that opportunity. And as part of the Education for All campaign, we're focused on lowering student debt, reducing tuition and student fees, and this current project that we've got going on, our postcard campaign, I wish I had one right now, is aimed at eliminating interest rates on student loans, because those who cannot afford to pay for education up front, Reno, they're the ones who are paying, they're the ones who are tagged on with extra costs at the end of it. And at the end of the day, why are the ones who are less wealthy the ones who are paying more? It just doesn't add up. So, you know, one step at a time. Public education for all, utopia world, of course, one day.
It can happen, it will happen, it will happen. And it starts with you guys, it starts with us. So let's get out there and get shit poppin'.
Help us deliver the message to the provincial government, different levels of government that can really help us open these doors of opportunity.
It affects you.
For
it
you,
affects us.
me, and everyone.
All of us.